This is an excellent question. So, how come light was created on day one, but the sun and the moon and the stars weren't created until day four in the creation account? All right, let's get into this. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Light was created on two different occasions, day one and day four. This light was used to divide light from darkness on day one and again on day four. So maybe the light on day one and the light on day four are two different occurrences of light, two entirely different things. Let's take a look and see what the Jews said about this in their writings in like the Midrash and the Talmud and things like that. So we can see here in the Babylonian Talmud that they say that the light created on day one was indeed different from the light created on day four. That God created a new light on day four because, well, man is going to be too sinful to be able to bear the light that he created on day one. Therefore, he create the sun and the moon and the stars to illuminate things for mankind because the light created on day one would have been too glorious for mankind to bear. Here's another explanation from the ancient Jewish literature, extra-biblical literature, such as the Midrash, Talmud, things like that. And right here, they're saying that the sun and the moon and the stars and all that were created on day one, and that's where the light is coming from, but they were not hung up into the firmament until day number four. Now, this right here sort of goes along with modern scientific understanding of planetary formation. In the case of planetary formation and scientifically, the Earth would have been very, very hot. All the water would have been like a real thick cloud cover over the entire Earth. You probably could have seen the light from the sun, but you would not have known the source of that light because the cloud cover would have been too thick. Now, of course, no known life would be able to live in those conditions, but if you were an earthbound observer, you would look up, you would see there's light coming in from above, but you would not be able to see the source of that light. And then as you go through, God separated the waters above and below the firmament, causing oceans to collect at the bottom. That's as the earth cools, the water sort of collects out of the clouds, condenses, falls down as rain, and creating a separation between the firmament there. Cloud cover up above, and then the water on the ground is collecting. Now you got a space there with no cloud cover, but the clouds are still very thick. Then eventually says all the waters gathered to one place, let dry ground appear, tectonics are taking off, mountain buildings going on, volcanisms taking place, and the continents are starting to emerge from the surface of the water. Then you go on, eventually you get to day four, and in day four what happens? The cloud cover is finally thin enough, and you're starting to be able to get partly cloudy skies. You're now able to look up through the cloud cover and see, for the first time, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And so this is another ancient explanation, but now we have science to sit there and say, well, maybe this explanation is correct. So this extra biblical passage of the Jews talks about the light on day one being too intense for life on earth, and so God contained the light within the sun, the moon, the stars, so that life on earth could bear the intensity of light, and that the original light is basically from God himself. And we see passages in the Bible where if you stand in God's presence, you would be consumed because of the radiance of God's glory. And so they're relating the light back to God's glory, and then that the sun, the moon, the stars, they contain some of that light so that we have a less intense version of that light here on earth. So what does the New Testament have to say about this? The Apostle John writes in his gospel, "In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." Now, if you read John 1, verses 1 through 5, and compare that to Genesis chapter 1, 1 through 5, you'll see that John and Genesis both parallel each other in the beginning. And John is defining that Jesus is the light, which is the life of men. So John is defining what that light is, and that light is the life of men. Let's go further and let's see what Jesus had to say about it. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. So this right here, Jesus is saying that he is the light. So this goes back to what John was saying at the beginning of his gospel, which we can then tie back to Genesis. So it looks like the light created on day number 1 is indeed the glory of God himself, the life force, and everything else. So the light on day 1 and the light on day 4 are indeed different from one another. The only thing that we can say for sure is that there is debate over what the light on day 1 versus day 4 actually are and what's actually going on. What do you think? Do you think any of those hypotheses or theories hold any weight as to why the sun and moon and stars were created on day 4 versus the light being created on day 1? Or do you have an alternate explanation? Let me know in the comments.